Yo, what is going on, you guys, and welcome to the beginning of the end, the finale to the main Spider-Verse saga of stories that I've been doing over the last 2 years. This is it. All the way from Spectacular Spider-Man Season 3 to the Amazing Spider-Man Sinister Six. We are here. Morlun finally showed his face at the end of the Sinister Six movie, and it is time. At the end of every Spider-Man and Woman's solo journey, we either saw Madam Web, or in Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's case, Morlun. And it is time for the final big event, the Culmination. If you have not seen any of the other fan-made stories before this, I highly recommend you go and watch some of them to be up to date on what is happening and the stories that we are following. That includes the Ultimate Spider-Man / Spectacular Spider-Man / Mayday Parker continuation stories, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 to 6, and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man rewrite and continuation. But if you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to not miss any more content like this in the future, and to not miss part 2 and 3 to the Spider-Verse saga. And with that being said, let's do this. What a live-action Spider-Verse should be. We start our story in the world of the Captain Universe Spider-Man, living his life to the fullest. In this universe, Captain Universe is omnipotent. In fact, he is the most powerful Spider-Man of the entire multiverse. Therefore, his spider totem glows brighter than the rest. Then, to turn the tides, out of nowhere, a big grey figure appears from an illuminating portal. Captain Universe is baffled. The big grey figure says it's time for the feast to begin. As he attacks Captain Universe, he is caught off guard by how strong this being is. Captain Universe is a god, and no one has ever challenged his presence before now. When asking, "Who are you?" the grey figure reveals himself as Morlun. After a close fight, Morlun gets Captain Universe down and weak. Morlun says that he's gonna kill him, but not just yet. Just before Captain Universe can ask what he means, Morlun will suck the life force from Captain Universe, collecting his spider totem in a small glass container, like a trophy. This scene was to show Morlun's power. He has just taken down the most powerful spider person in the entire multiverse, showing how powerful and trained he has become. Morlun leaves, as then we cut to Spectacular Spider-Man's universe, and to the end of the Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man series, where Miles and Anya kiss. The exact same scene from the series plays out, and then Miles goes off. He's really happy with himself. He's just helped save the city, and now he's officially Spider-Man. He starts to head home when a strange portal appears in front of him, and a strange old lady appears in front of him, and says that she is Madam Web, and that Miles' work isn't over just yet. Miles looks confused at what's going on, and Madam Web tells him that a threat is coming. A big threat is coming, and it's not just universal, but multiversal. Miles is baffled. Multiversal? He only just got to become a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he'll say. But Madam Web says there is no time, and he has to step up to the challenge, or else every Spider-Man and woman's life will perish. This confuses Miles even more. Madam Web says that she'll explain later, but he needs to come with her now. Miles doesn't trust her at first, but then Madam Web shows him the multiverse through a projection. Miles can see different Spider-Men. We see 2099, we see Spider-Gwen, a world where Anya is Spider-Woman. We see 616, the Ultimate Universe, we see MTV Spider-Man, we see the MCU, and we see many, many more. Miles decides that she might be legit, and decides to follow in the end. We then get a scene where Madam Web explains on her Earth the situation to Miles. She explains that Morlun, someone known as an inheritor from Earth 0, is hunting all the Spider-Men and women of the multiverse down and taking their life forces. Miles asks how she knows this, and who the hell is Morlun? Madam Web explains that spider people have a strong influx of power called a spider totem. Some Earths have more than one, just like the Earth that Miles is from, and Madam Web can measure these totems across the multiverse. She tells Miles that recently there has been a spike in totem loss, however she passed it off as just Spider-Men and women dying from natural universal causes, like in a fight with a supervillain, which happens every day to at least someone in the multiverse. But then, however, a certain spider totem went missing that made Madam Web question the reality of the situation. Miles asks what totem this was, and then Web says that it was someone called Captain Universe's totem that went missing yesterday, who, by the way, was the most powerful and omnipotent Spider-Man in the entire multiverse, and that, along with the spike in totem losses, led to Madam Web to do some digging. She searched across the multiverse until stumbling upon a battle between Morlun and a Spider-Man of a different world. She tells Miles that she watched him tear the life force from the world's Spider-Man and take the totem, Morlun is collecting these spider totems, but for what reason Madam Web does not know. She is certain of one thing though, that her along with Miles have to band together a group of remaining Spider-Men and women to defeat Morlun and free the totems. Miles has been thrown in the deep end. This scene mainly is for exposition only. I know it's quite clunky, but it'll be used to set the stage and get the audience to understand the vicinity of the situation. We then get a personal scene with Miles and we catch up with his character as he sits down and reflects on everything that has just happened and what is going on. He thinks back to Peter Parker and the mentor, almost fatherly-like relationship he had with him. Miles is now his own Spider-Man, but he had to take it slowly. But because he's been thrown into the deep end, he feels overwhelmed. Miles starts to feel like he needs that guidance to help him. After all, he's just still a kid. He tries to think back to what the Spectacular Spider-Man would do, but he doesn't believe in himself. Spectacular Peter Parker was a legend of the scene, possibly one of the best Spider-Men to ever exist. Miles doesn't believe he could ever achieve what he did. He starts to doubt himself, and that's where Miles' story arc of the Spider-Verse really starts to take shape. Miles still needs that mentor figure to help him guide him through the big battles like this one, and that mentor figure isn't there to help him now. He is on his own, which is where the doubt comes in. Madam Web says to Miles that there is no time to waste and they have to go and gather some of the remaining Spider-Men and women of the multiverse, but first they need to go to the future. Madam Web transports Miles and herself to the future of the Spectacular Universe. We will get a funny scene and interaction with Miles and Madam Web, where Miles questions how can she even time travel as well as dimension hop. Madam Web will simply reply with that's the beauty of the fourth dimension. Miles says that he doesn't even want to know what that means. They end up in the year 2032 of the Spectacular Spider-Man universe, and Miles asks what are they doing here, and Madam Web says to collect another Spider-Person before Morlun does. Then above them in the skies swings Spider-Girl. Miles is in shock. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Madam Web says that it could perhaps be a familiar face. But before they could follow, Miles hears sirens in the distance. Madam Web says to ignore that. Miles rejects it and says that he has to help. It's his responsibility as Spider-Man, once again leaning back on what Spectacular Spider-Man Peter Parker told him. Web tries to stop him, but he's already gone. Miles swings to the scene and it's a robbery taking place. Miles stops it by taking out the thugs. Then the cops arrive on the scene and then tell Miles that they haven't seen him in a while and it's good to have him back. Miles is really confused. He was about to ask why before Madam Web pulls him aside. Web says that's exactly why I told you not to get involved, and Miles questions why. And Web says that because they're in the future, this could affect his reality. The same version of himself still exists within this universe. She says you can't know too much about your own future. Miles responds quirkily by saying that sounds like that one movie MJ said Peter was always obsessed with. However, they carry on to try and find the mysterious Spider-Girl. We then cut to Mayday Parker, who lands on a building and goes through the top hatch into her brand new apartment that she got after she moved out at the end of Spectacular Spider-Girl. She then takes her mask off and then Madam Web and Miles appear in front of her. She is freaked out at first but then recognizes Miles. Miles is also confused. We have a funny scene where Miles says that he only just saw her as a baby a couple of days ago. However, Madam Web interrupts before they can say anything else as she explains the situation and says that Miles and herself need Mayday's help as a big threat is coming. She explains everything she did to Miles about Morlun and that they are from the past. Mayday is confused but decides she must go along with it. However, she isn't as trusting to Madam Web as Miles was at first. Miles and Mayday will relate to each other the most here, as Mayday is kind of put in the same sort of situation to Miles, except Mayday is less likely to trust someone as much as Miles because of what happened in the Spectacular Spider-Girl when her best friend betrayed her. Her arc for the Spider-Verse starts here as she needs to learn to trust again, to believe in others around her, but she goes with them anyway as the situation is explained to her. Miles and Mayday go off with Madam Web, and Miles asks where they're going next, whilst Mayday gets to grips with it all. Madam Web says that they're heading to a familiar universe, not far from theirs, but in a world in which can be seen as very different also. Something quite amazing. We continue our story in the Amazing Spider-Man universe, and Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker is with the Mary Jane of that universe. He is sat there with MJ and they're out on a date. They're discussing the recent events. Only recently has he defeated the Sinister Six and saved the city, but Peter feels like a lot of the Oscorp drama is over now and feels like he can live his life a little bit more. He wants to settle down. On their date, Peter takes MJ to a bridge in Central Park and we get a shot of a ring that Peter pulls out of his pocket. He gets MJ's attention and he proposes to her. MJ is delighted and she says yes. They share a happy moment. This is the peak of the amazing Spider-Man character. They look at each other in the eyes and Peter just smiles and tells MJ that she makes him so happy. MJ says the same back. And then Peter's spider sense goes off. He quickly snaps his head into the direction of the alert. MJ asks, "What is it?" And Peter says that something is happening. Peter hadn't felt such a strong disturbance in his spider sense in a while. It's going crazy. A massive portal has opened in the middle of New York City. People screaming left, right and center, and the sounds of sirens can be heard. Peter looks back at MJ in concern, and MJ tells him to go, and he does swiftly. The Amazing Spider-Man swings through the city as he meets Black Cat on the scene. Our reintroduction to this character is just a funny little interaction as Peter is joking about how Black Cat always ends up there before him. Then a tall grey man exits the portal. He had red eyes and looks menacing. Peter makes a joke about how if anything else goes wrong in New York, he might just move out. Morlun steps out and just stands there menacingly facing Spider-Man and Black Cat. He takes a deep breath in and out through his nose. Morlun says about how this is one of the less polluted Earths he's been to. Peter and Felicia both think, Earths? Peter asks him what he wants here, and Morlun says that he wants Spider-Man. And Peter says that he's right here. Morlun asks just to give himself up as it would be easier for his sake, and Peter says no, and Morlun says that he knew he'd say that. He's just like the rest of them. Brave, but stupid. Peter is so confused, he has no idea what this means by the rest of them. Morlun attacks Spider-Man with Black Cat intervening here and there. A couple of seconds into the battle and Peter is already being pushed to his limits, swinging and dodging. Morlun then grabs him and slams him down and he says he's done playing, but then Black Cat kicks him across the face. This doesn't hurt Morlun but puts him off, allowing Peter to swing away. Morlun grabs Peter by the foot, but then Black Cat grabs Morlun's foot while he's distracted and he lets go of Peter. Spider-Man web zips away but falls down slightly injured. Morlun slaps Black Cat across the street and says she's starting to get on his nerves. He walks over to her and Peter stands up and starts running towards Morlun. Morlun says he didn't want to have to do this. Black Cat is bleeding and is very hurt. He picks up Black Cat by the throat and tells Spider-Man to stop in his tracks. He says it's either him or Felicia. Peter stops. He tells him to put her down. Morlun says only if you turn yourself into me, and Peter agrees. Felicia begs Peter not to do this. Then Morlun lets Black Cat go. As he approaches Peter, his footsteps stomp towards him as Peter kneels on the ground. Morlun is inches from Peter, but just before he can lay a finger on him, another portal opens in front of them and Miles Morales and Mayday Parker both come charging out of it, swinging and kicking Morlun straight in the face. Morlun growls as Peter webs onto Felicia and pulls her towards him as they swing off. Peter drops Felicia off at a safe place, but she is really hurt. He then swings back into action to help Spider-Girl and Miles. The three of them manage to knock Morlun down momentarily before Miles shouts for Peter to come with them, and Peter is so confused at first, but then as Morlun tries to spear Peter, he jumps through the portal just in time to escape him. The portal closes and Morlun thuds to the middle of the street. He stands up and brushes himself down as people start cowering from him. He says to himself that he never has had a Spider-Man or woman ever escape his grasp until now. Morlun realizes what's going on. He doesn't leave straight away, but reflects on the situation. He comes to the realization that some of the remaining Spider-Men and women across the multiverse have banded together as they clearly know that Morlun is almost certainly present. He breathes heavily as a sheer moment of anger, but fear can be sensed within Morlun. He knows that these are the most powerful totems in the multiverse, and he knows that in numbers, they can be strong. We cut back to Madam Web's Earth, where Andrews, Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Mayday Parker appear. Miles and Mayday land, and Andrew falls over and is freaking out, saying that he's never experienced anything like this. He says that he's literally just proposed to Mary Jane. He can't leave her there with that monster. Madam Web tells Andrew to calm down and that Mary Jane will be fine. Morlun isn't after her. Peter will ask what is Morlun after. Webb will explain the entire situation again, but this time to Andrew, and that they need all the help that they can get to stop Morlun once and for all. Because if they don't, the entire multiverse will be in hell. We cut over to Miles, who looks up at Andrew. He couldn't believe it. It's Peter Parker, the man who sacrificed himself for him, for the entire city. It's actually Peter Parker, well, a different version of him, but he was standing right there. Miles stays quiet, and you can tell he's upset by this. He moves to one side, and Mayday goes over to him asking if he's alright. Miles says about how Peter Parker on his Earth died, and it's weird seeing him again. Mayday reminds Miles that that was her dad. She kind of chuckles it off. Miles apologizes, and Mayday says that it's fine, she never really knew him since he died before she was born. Miles says that he shouldn't really be talking to her because he knows it could affect the timeline on their Earth, but he needs to know one thing. Mayday says, "What's that?" And Miles asks what happens to him in the future. The cop that he met when he went to 2032 said he wasn't there anymore, and Mayday never mentioned him either when they showed up. Mayday's face goes blank. Miles can tell something's up. He asks again, "Where was I?" Mayday responds. She says that one day, he just simply vanished. She says that MJ always had the intention of raising her with Miles as this uncle figure in her life. And then in his early career, he just stopped being Spider-Man and then disappeared altogether. Miles is confused. Mayday says that's from what MJ told her. The Miles that she knew would never do that. It must have taken something really disturbing to stop Miles Morales from being Spider-Man. And that's when it clicks for Miles. The Spider-Verse. This is the biggest challenge he will ever face. Something happens in this event that changes him. An ominous feeling arises within Miles. Spine-chilling thoughts run through his head. This then ties into Miles' arc for the Spider-Verse, as he doesn't know if he can step up to the big challenge, and it'll be a real test of character. This will push him. This will be the point at which he switches, and the point at which he is determined. He won't let the pressure get to him, and he will save the multiverse. Andrew comes over to him and says that Madam Web told him what happened to his Earth's Peter Parker, and says that he's sorry about that. Miles says thanks. Mayday also has a moment as she admires Peter. Andrew asks, "Who are you then? A female version of me?" Mayday says no. She's his daughter with Mary Jane. Andrew's eyes widen as we get a funny scene where Andrew is shocked that he has kids. Then all of a sudden Madam Web can be seen to get weaker. As all the spider people catch up, they look over. They go over to her and ask what's wrong. She says that another totem is gone. He's moving quicker than ever, and they must act quickly if they are to survive and save the multiverse. Andrew says that if you send him back to his Earth, he can go and get reinforcements there too. Madam Web agrees and says all the help you can get. Web says that Miles and Mayday will go to another Earth and ask for that Spider-Person's help as well. Web sends Andrew back to his Earth, and they disappear off to another one. We cut to Morlun as he sucks the life force from another Spider-Man of another Earth. He utters that he can't wait to feast on all these life forces. Morlun is collecting them. He is waiting for the big feast. Morlun is then contacted by someone. He answers on a hologram. The man on the other end speaks almost like he's Morlun's superior. It turns out that this is his father. This will also be another scene of exposition like in the first part, but this scene will start to show more of a human side to Morlun. On Earth Zero, one of the previous Master Weavers placed a curse on Morlun and his family due to some conflict that past generations of that family and the previous Master Weaver had before in the past. It's a curse that cannot be lifted, even by current Master Weavers. And Master Weaver, by the way, is the title-born entity in charge of weaving and maintaining the web of life and destiny. In this multiverse, the Master Weaver can change at any point. Any spider person with any spider totem can become the Master Weaver. And after asking many a times, the current Master Weaver Khan will not lift the curse from Morlun's family. He said he will not intervene with this debacle, even though Morlun has begged him on multiple occasions. So then Morlun resorted to the only thing he could do, which was to hunt the most powerful totems in the multiverse, which was obviously the spider totems. Morlun was only a child when this curse was placed in the past. It's a curse that slowly drains the life forces until they eventually die. So Morlun grew up wanting to change this. He wanted his family to live happy lives. So he collects those spider totems so him and his family can feed and be healthy enough to live full lives. Morlun is driven by family. He does not like to kill. He is genuinely a good person, but family comes first. He'd do anything for them. His father will ask him where he is, and we can see that Morlun's father is on his last legs. Morlun says that his mission is almost complete. His father says that he better be back soon. Morlun says that he will, and he will save them all. We cut to Andrew's Earth as we catch up with him. He goes back and checks in with MJ as she hugs him. MJ asks if Peter is alright, and Peter says he is, but the multiverse isn't. MJ asks, what? And Peter says that him and Felicia need to leave for a while. They need to go and help the other Spider-Men and women to save the multiverse. There is someone killing Spider-Men and women from different universes, and they need his help. MJ laughs at first. She doesn't believe what she's hearing, but then she can tell that Peter is being serious. MJ then says that she believes him, but he's got to be careful out there. They hug and kiss one last time, and then Andrew's Peter Parker, the amazing Spider-Man, swings away. We then get a scene where Peter meets with Felicia, who is recovering. Her fight with Morlun did a number on her. Peter says that he needs her help, and Felicia jokes back saying that when don't you? Peter says that he knows she's hurt, but wouldn't be asking if it wasn't serious. Felicia says that she wouldn't let him go alone anyway. They both smile at each other, and they leave through a portal that Madam Web has set up to the next Spider-Man's Earth. We continue our story in a familiar place. We fade straight into the Earth of another Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but he looks older. This is 10 years down the line, and Tobey Maguire is a teacher at ESU after Dr. Connors. We cut to a scene where Tobey's Peter is taking his class on a school field trip to the new Large Hadron Collider that was recently built in New York. He'll be explaining how it works and what possibilities the device could have for scientists in New York and the students of ESU. They go underground to a base that seems very heavily secure. One of the students will joke about the multiverse, asking if it's possible it could open a breach to another universe, for example. Peter says theoretically with enough energy, yes, but they need proof of a multiverse first, since they'd just be punching a hole in nothing if the theory turned out not to be true. And if worst came to worst, they could create a singularity and destroy the entire Earth. The students then laugh it off. Once the tour is over, Tobey will take his class back to the surface, and the class will end as the students will leave. He will congratulate some of them on the hard work on the tour, and he'll have a nice little interaction with some of the students to really show how comfortable he is with his life, and what his life has become. We cut to him walking down the street reminiscent of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from Spider-Man 2. He walks past a store that has Spider-Man merchandise. He gives a brief smile and walks away. He returns home to a regular-sized house, and him and Felicia Hardy are happily married. Peter comes home and we can see that he's really happy. This isn't what we're used to seeing from this version of Peter Parker. He is happy. He has no stress. He's a good teacher and he's got good money. When he gets home, Felicia says that she's got something to tell Peter, and Peter asks what's that. They sit down on the sofa in front of a warm, homely fireplace, and Felicia tells him that she is pregnant and that they're going to have a baby. Peter is over the moon and he's ecstatic. He says that's great. We have this slow scene to start this part to show Tobey's Spider-Man, to show us what he is now, and how he's changed from the 6 Spider-Man films that were apart before. It's a nice scene. After 6 films, our character is happy. He's finally accomplished everything he wanted. But in classic Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fashion, just as they're about to celebrate, a flash comes from outside. Peter is confused and it startles them. Peter opens the door hesitantly, and standing there is Spider-Man, Spider-Girl, and Madam Web. Peter's eyes widen. It can't be. Who are these people? Tobey starts to breathe heavily and asks who are these people. Madam Web tells Peter to calm down. Web explains the situation and that Morlun will be on his way here soon to kill you, as he's been doing to all the other Spider-Men and women across the multiverse. Tobey says he can't help them. Him and Felicia are married and they're gonna have a child. It's revealed that his Spider-Man days are over. In fact, they've been over for a long time. Peter hasn't been Spider-Man for almost 10 years now. Then out of nowhere, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, and Felicia Hardy from their Earth appear. Andrew says that he bought some reinforcements. Felicia is confused and there's an awkward introduction between her and the rest of the characters. Their situation is serious, however. They keep trying to convince Tobey, but he keeps refusing. Miles starts to crumble. He starts panicking. Miles was told by Mayday that he disappears in the future and he knows that it's something to do with what happens here. Thoughts run through his head. What if they lose? What if Morlun manages to kill almost all of the spider people? What if that's why he disappears? He can't take it anymore. He starts to become overwhelmed and tells the rest of them that this isn't good. They need to do something and they need to do it quick. Madam Web says that if Tobey does not join them, it will be what it'll be. Andrew looks down in disbelief. Web, Mayday, and Miles start to walk off in one direction, and Andrew just stands outside Tobey's house. Tobey has his back turned to Andrew. He was about to walk back inside when Andrew speaks. "What are you doing?" says Andrew. Tobey turns around. They both look at each other with a stern face. Peter looks at Peter. Andrew says that you can't do this, and Tobey says that you don't know me. Andrew tells Tobey that he is him, so he knows him pretty well. Andrew proclaims that he's hanging on to every hope that they have left of beating Morlun, and Tobey is a part of that hope. Tobey says good luck then, because that's not the man he is anymore, and Andrew simply replies with, "What about Uncle Ben?" Tobey then has a moment. We can see Tobey has a moment where he remembers the man that meant so much to him, a glimmer of hope. He then snaps back into reality and turns to Andrew and says that Uncle Ben said that he was growing up into the man that he would become as an adult. Toby says that he is the man that Uncle Ben would want him to be. A man with a family and a child on the way. Andrew shakes his head. Tears almost start to well in his eyes. He says, "No, you're wrong." He says Uncle Ben would want him to help. Toby says he's sorry, but no. He walks back inside. We get a long shot where Andrew will just stare in the direction of his house, where we can see the sun set behind him in a silhouette of Andrew just standing there. It's a beautiful shot, showing how lost he is. Everything has all come at once and hit him in the face. He's faced so much over the last few years with the Goblin, the Sinister Six, Gwen's death, and now this. Andrew feels like his luck can only run so far. He's slowly losing hope. This shot will represent within Andrew's character, and his arc for the Spider-Verse will start here. He will have to learn to hold on to hope when it looks like there isn't any. He learns trust, responsibility, and now he has to learn to have hope, and how to hold on to it. Felicia will approach him and ask him if he's okay. Andrew will say yeah, but with all the spider people dying and now even some refusing, it's going to be hard. Felicia agrees. She says that she doesn't fully understand, but what she does understand is that they can get through this. Andrew doesn't fully believe that yet, but nods still. He trusts Felicia. They both walk off to meet the others. They leave Toby's Earth and go on their way to find another Spider-Man or woman of a different Earth. We then cut to Toby inside with his version of Felicia. Felicia asks what just happened. Toby explains the situation to her and that it's going to be hard to understand, but other versions of Spider-Men from different universes just came through a massive portal and said that a threat is coming. Felicia is confused at first, but then Peter says that he can't believe he's about to say this, but there are different universes out there. After briefly explaining it to Felicia, she asks why he didn't go with them. He says because of her and their baby. He can't leave them now. They were so close to the finish line, and now this. Felicia says that she understands, but he's Spider-Man. Toby says that he isn't Spider-Man anymore. Then he walks off to the kitchen and asks Felicia if she wants anything, as if nothing just happened. Felicia loves Peter, but she doesn't believe that the fighting spirit that once glazed the man that she fell in love with has dissipated. She understands why. His life has changed from 10 years ago, but he's almost forgetting the man that he once was. We cut to Madam Web, Andrew, and Miles, and Mayday, who are travelling to another Earth. It was looking up for the team before. Everything was positive. The team was thriving. And then they encountered Toby's Spider-Man. It was almost like a slap in the face. The team needs all the help they can get, and he didn't want to. Miles looks stressed, Mayday looks distant with everyone, and Andrew and Felicia sit in the corner consoling one another. Madam Web looks around, realizes what's happening. She looks down. Even Madam Web doesn't look confident anymore. Miles starts saying how he can't do this anymore. This guy's too powerful. How are they ever gonna stop him? How? Web tells Miles to calm down. Miles responds with, how can he calm down? What are they gonna do? Mayday pitches in, agreeing, saying that she doesn't even know who Madam Web is, and how can she just trust everyone when she's thrown into all this mess? Madam Web snaps and shouts back at Miles and Mayday, saying that she might look like she has all the answers, but she's actually in the same boat as everyone else. Miles asks what's that meant to mean, and then Web responds saying that she also is a holder of a spider totem. She holds the spider totem of her Earth. She shouts at them saying she's not just a convenient savior that appears to give everyone a chance. No. She's on the run too, and like every other spider person out there, she knows the responsibility she carries, so decides to use her special abilities to gather and warn other Spider-Men and women of the multiverse, of the threat of Morlin. She then says, I guess it's just all my fault if everything doesn't go to plan. She's doing it for her as much as she's doing it for everyone else. And it's not just for every other spider person, but for the people that get saved by spider people. She looks around and says, how many people have you all saved? Andrew says, a lot. Then Webb says, well, it wouldn't be possible if you were all dead, would it? Miles looks down and then storms off. Andrew says that they should all just cool off and regroup, and then go after the next spider person. We then cut to Morlin. He is with MCU Spider-Man. MCU Spider-Man tries to fight him. Morlin grabs him by the scruff of his neck and throws him down. Tom Holland's Spider-Man gasps for air as Morlin sucks the life force from him. He says that's another down. Then he gets a holographic message. It's once again from his father. His father seems even more unwell this time. Morlin asks if his father is okay. The father says that his time is limited. Morlin says he's almost done and he won't be long. The father says that he knows something's wrong. Morlin seems scared. The father senses fear in his son. Morlin says he's nothing but a fierce warrior that he raised him to be. The father says not to give him crap while he's on his deathbed. He knows that something has gone wrong. Morlin says that there is a team of Spider-Men and women. He says it's becoming a tough battle. The father says that he doesn't have long left. If he wants him to live, he is to come back and feed him some of the life forces he's already collected to save his life. Morlun proclaims that if he comes back now to save him, there won't be enough life force to save the rest of his family and his people. And with the spider team growing ever stronger, it becomes increasingly difficult to gather more life forces. The father says, how could you second guess him? He says, I'm your father. As the father slowly becomes more fragile, the desperation starts to seep through. He begs Morlun to come and save his life. Morlun's eyes close and open again. He says he'll be right there. Morlun leaves the MCU and goes to Earth Zero. We cut to a scene with Morlun and his father. He meets him, and the curse has caught up with him. He's almost dead. The father asks Morlun if he brought the life forces to fully revive him. Morlun nods his head as he shows a bunch of glass containers containing life forces from the spider totems. The father utters that he's done him proud. He goes to grab one of the containers and Morlun drags his hand away. The father screams with his lasting energy, "What are you doing?" Morlun says that it's not the right thing. He can't give him the life force. This scene will be very similar to the scene at the end of Spider-Man PS4, where Peter has to choose between curing Aunt May or the city. Morlun says he's sorry, but if he does this and doesn't go back to catching spider totems, it'll be too late. The father is in disbelief. Morlun says he's sorry as a tear drops from his eye. The father passes on right in front of his son. Morlun says that he'll do him proud, but he has made his decision. He must save the spider totems and collect more and complete his mission. We cut back to Toby's Earth. Toby is walking down the street. It's the next day on his way back from work. He gets home and Felicia is waiting for him. She asks him if he's okay. He says yeah, he's good, but Felicia can tell something's wrong. Toby looks like he's contemplating things. She asks what's wrong. Toby responds with that he thought about what Andrew's Spider-Man said to him. He says that he knows it's his responsibility and that Uncle Ben taught him that. He says that he never forgot that. She asks him what's holding him back, and Peter says that he thinks he's just scared. He hasn't been Spider-Man for over 10 years, and everything in life has finally came good for him. After years of suffering, after losing Uncle Ben, losing Harry to losing MJ, and fighting his toughest battles, he found the girl he would marry in Felicia Hardy and settle down with her, and now they're about to have a baby. He's scared to lose everything. He's scared that he will fail. Toby sheds a tear, and Felicia holds Toby in her arms. Felicia says that as much as she doesn't want him to go, it's his responsibility. Tears start to swell in her eyes as she says that he is Spider-Man. That's who he is and that's who he always will be. Felicia says that it's gonna be okay. She places his head on her tummy and she says that the baby says it's fine too. Toby cracks a cheesy smile at Felicia. He gulps and then says that she's right. He needs to find a way to open a breach into the multiverse to go through if he is to find them. Felicia shakes her head and flickers her eyes as if Peter just said something so outlandish. But Peter says that it's possible. One of his students suggested it earlier and he genuinely believes it could be possible. Felicia asks how in the world is he going to open a breach in space-time? That seems pretty hard to say the least. Peter says with a lot of energy he believes that it is possible. Felicia says, well, you're the professor, and Peter smiles at her as he walks off. Cut to Earth TRN453, home to the Spider-Man of 2099. Or in this version of the multiverse, home to Spider-Man 2099 from the game fan pitch. Miguel O'Hara swings through the futuristic New York City and lands heroically. He says that a disturbance has been picked up in this area. A massive energy signature has been picked up. Then something doesn't feel right. The air around Miguel starts to tremble. Miguel says that that does not look so good, and then a massive portal, almost wormhole-like, opens in front of him. And out comes a big grey figure with piercing red eyes. It's Morlun. He has made his way to the 2099 universe. Miguel gulps. Miguel scans around as they both stand there opposite each other, almost not aware of each other's existence, but very aware of what's about to happen. Morlun breathes in the air of 2099 and utters that this is the future. Miguel is confused about who this is, and Morlun says that he is the end for all Spider-Men. Miguel will say not if he has anything to say about it. We then cut back to Toby's Earth as he is rushing to the university. He goes through a couple of rooms, sneaking around. We see Toby has entered the Large Hadron Collider room. A security man says that he's not allowed to be in here without authorized access, since he's only a professor. Toby quickly kicks him and webs him down to the floor, and remarks that he hasn't used those in a while. Then he hears more security guards coming. Toby jumps to the ceiling. The guards come in and see a security guy on the floor webbed up. They're confused. Spider-Man hasn't been around for 10 years. Who is this? Toby says he's got to get them out of there. Then quickly he webs them up. He makes his way down to the reactor and flips a few settings and switches. Toby will make an ironic remark saying that if he remembered his physics class, this should be a breeze. He sets everything up to go. He's going to open a breach into the multiverse with the Large Hadron Collider. It has enough energy. It should be able to do it. He has proof a multiverse exists. The Large Hadron Collider could potentially disrupt space-time and allow him through. Then Felicia rings him. She says that he forgot about something. Peter meets Felicia outside the room and she hands him a case. He opens the case, and there lies the Spider-Man suit. He holds it up grandly like he did in Spider-Man 3 and says thank you. Felicia says to be careful. She tells Toby that she loves him. He says that he loves her too, and their baby. She says that you better come back. Toby says don't worry. He always does. Cut back to Miguel's Earth. Him and Morlin are fighting as the pacing ramps up. Miguel is pushed to his absolute limits like all the other Spider-Men and women who have fought Morlin. Miguel dodging right and left. He is one of the more skilled Spider-Men that Morlin has come up against in the multiverse. They pause for a brief moment for a dialogue exchange. Morlin complimenting him on his skills, however, says that he is still no match for himself. And just before Morlin could wipe Miguel out, Madam Web comes through another portal with Miles, Mayday, Andrew, and Felicia. They land in the 2099 universe. Miles makes a remark about how come Morlin is always wherever they go. Morlin says no matter, he'll take the forearm for the price of one. This pumps some adrenaline into Morlin as they all engage into battle. Morlin using more strength than he did previously. They all jump, dodge, and fight. Mayday tells Miles to trip him with a web. Miles doesn't listen and Mayday gets smacked out of the way by Morlin. She grunts and jumps back up. Morlin grabs Andrew and slams him into the floor. He says he might need some help over here. Miles tries to kick Morlin, but Morlin turns around swiftly and grabs Miles by the throat and slams him straight into the ground as well. 2099 throws a bomb into the path of Morlin from his upgraded belt. He is distracted and that allows Andrew and Miles to escape. Black Cat goes in for an attack and kicks Morlin in the face. As she kicks him, one of the glass containers drops from Morlin. Madam Web looks over at it. Meanwhile, Morlin grabs Felicia by the foot and swings her around and throws her off the building. Andrew jumps after her as Miles and Mayday try to engage Morlin. Morlin grabs Andrew's foot, however, leaving Black Cat falling. Andrew screams to Miles and Mayday to grab Black Cat as they weren't paying attention and didn't see her fall off the building. She is falling at a rapid pace. Morlin carries on fighting the four of them and they're getting violently beat up. Morlin says that they got in his way for the very last time, and then Felicia lands safely back on the building. Morlin turns around, confused, giving the others some time to recover. The music ramps up as Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man swings in. He's back. He swings in and kicks Morlin straight in the face, knocking him back a bit. Miles says you came. Toby says yeah, just in the nick of time, calling back to Spider-Man 3, in which Miles will say, you could have been a bit earlier. To then Toby will say, I know how you feel. Morlin will turn around and be even more angry this time. He has had enough. He slams into the ground, sending them all off their feet and into the floor. Toby tries to forge a plan with them all, but they all go off and attack on their own, forcing Toby to make his own moves. This turns into being their downfall, as they get attacked one by one and defeated one by one. Morlin is beating down on all of them at once. It's brutal. Madam Web decides they cannot defeat Morlin here and breaches them away. Morlin screams, no! That was his chance! He once again reflects on the situation. We then cut to the team on Madam Web's Earth. They all stay silent. Miles limps and sits down. Mayday is injured and so is Black Cat and Andrew. 2099 perches himself and Toby stands up and asks what the hell happened back there. Miles says that we're not good enough. Toby says that that's not true. He says that they're more incapable. This scene will be used as a scene that slows the pacing down just before the final third of the part. It'll be here to show how Toby's Spider-Man uses his experience and his mentorship to rejuvenate the team and to get them back on their feet. Toby says that they've got to step up. The camera pans over to Miles as he looks at Toby. Toby says that they have to all trust in each other, and that just because they're not all the same, and they don't all think the same, doesn't make what they do any less meaningful, and the camera pans over to Mayday. He says that they shouldn't give up hope either. He says that they're strong. The camera pans over to Andrew. Toby says that he's sorry for not joining them earlier. He almost forgot what with great power comes great responsibility means. He says he'll never forget that again. He was scared and he can imagine that they're all scared too, but they're gonna beat this guy. Miguel then says that Toby is really good at that, which breaks the tension a bit. Toby says that they need a plan. Miles says that they're gonna need more spider people or some kind of help. He turns to Madam Web and says can't they just time travel on his universe and go retrieve spectacular Peter Parker like they did Mayday? Madam Web steps in and says that they can universe hop, but time travel is one thing that is forbidden. In Mayday's case, it was a special exception since she is far in the future. But for example, if she went and took Peter Parker from his timeline, the timeline could drastically change, meaning that he could never die saving the city, and thus Miles never becomes Spider-Man, in effect, wiping him from the entire timeline. Miles gulps and says, okay then, no time travel then. Madam Web says that she managed to snatch something in the battle with Morlun. She pulls out a glass container from her pocket and says that this is what Morlun was carrying around with him. They all look confused at what it is. Madam Web says that she doesn't think Morlun is killing the spider people, but trapping them instead, in this. Everyone looks so baffled. Madam Web explains that killing someone that has a spider totem kills the totem. However, you can suck the life force from that person, essentially trapping their soul. Miles says that's screwed up. Madam Web smashes the container on the floor. Massive puff of smoke appears and out comes Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He says that it was real dark in there. Andrew says, "Who's this then?" Tom looks around and says, "Who are all of you and why are you all wearing those rip-off costumes?" Toby says that he's guessing he's another Peter Parker. Miguel jokingly asks why there's no other versions of him and that he's feeling kinda lonely. Madam Web and the rest of them explain the situation to Tom. Tom says, "Wait, so there's actually a multiverse?" Miles once again asks what's the plan. Web says that since they know Morlun isn't actually killing Spider-Men and women, rather he's taking their life forces, they can actually save them all. And when they fight Morlun, they're gonna need all the help that they can get. Toby steps up and says that we'll take the fight to him. Tom looks surprised. Andrew questions why. Everyone looks at him. Toby says he's sick of him picking them off one by one. They're gonna take the fight to him. They're gonna track him down and they're gonna stop him, once and for all. We cut to Morlun, who returns to Earth Zero to gather some supplies and weapons to fight with. He has had enough. He needs to end that spider team once and for all. He seems weaker though, like the curse is slowly creeping up on him. He looks so hopeless, like he has nothing left. He's flustered. The pressure gets to him. He remarks that he will kill every single one of them. Remember what I said earlier on, that Morlun does not like to kill, but only does it for his family. But since the spider team have been messing with his plans and the pressure and the weight of the situation has crumbled under Morlun, he's hateful. This was the rise and fall of Morlun as a character, and as an audience we are seeing the honourable family man he was, and the monster he is becoming. We cut to the spider team's perspective. They arrive on Earth Zero. Miles asks, "Is this the right place?" And Webb says it is. She says this is his Earth. The spider people walk forward. Miles, Andrew and Toby walk a little further ahead and spot him. Morlun is resting by a weapons shack. This Earth is dark and cloudy. It has grey, ominous vibes to it, which makes Morlun hard to spot in the mist. His glowing red eyes are the only thing that stands out to them. Miles, Andrew and Toby are in a line like Cap, Thor and Tony did in Endgame. And this will have a very similar scene, and I want to take the way Endgame visually stylized itself in that moment as well, and apply it here. Toby says that that's him, right? And Miles says, "Yeah, that's him, that's Morlun." Andrew will say, "Let's take him down properly this time." We as an audience have never seen all these characters so serious before. This is where all their arcs come to a close. They have learnt what they've needed to learn to build themselves up to this final battle. It's all led to this. Morlun turns around and says he should have expected you all to come here. Morlun starts shouting, saying, "Why couldn't they just leave him to his business?" Miles looks over and says, "We got the plan?" Mayday nods and so do the others. Toby says, "We get him down, then we get the totems." They all charge at Morlun. Morlun charges back. They leap and jump and dodge. The battle is fierce. Morlun uses his new weapons and tools to aid him. 2099 sends a couple of smoke bombs to confuse Morlun. Toby and Andrew swing and uppercut Morlun in the jaw, sending him back. Miles webs his arm down so he can't move it and kicks him in the face. Felicia comes in, knocking him down even more. Mayday comes in, webbing his eyes and his mouth. And then 2099 and Tom Holland jump over him, and Tom activates his web grenades and 2099 unleashes a web bomb, and they explode over Morlun, webbing him down. The others carry on using their web to web him down to the floor. They all stand up crowded around Morlun, who lays on the ground. They all seem happy with themselves. They celebrate before going for the totems, until the ground starts shaking. Morlun's fist thrusts from the webbing. He grabs Andrew's Spider-Man and throws him across the floor. Morlun fully breaks out and starts beating everyone to a pulp again. He says, "You really think you could stop me?" Felicia goes in for an attack but gets flung back. Miles and Andrew go in for another attack with Toby. Andrew gets hit across the face. Miles holds his own with Morlun for a while. He punches him across the face and breaks Miles' mask off and then backhands him across the floor. Toby grabs his arm and Morlun punches him too. They all carry on battling. They're disorganized again. Their plan failed and Morlun is picking them off one by one. Toby is the last standing and he goes in and hits Morlun. He stands his ground with Morlun for a while, jumping and dodging. He webs Morlun's feet to the floor, drags himself under him and kicks him in the back, but Morlun turns around and slams Toby into the floor. Morlun holds Toby on the ground and repeatedly punches him in the face, over and over again. Miles looks up and whispers, "No," with all the energy that he has left. We cut to a close-up of Toby. His mask is broken. His face is bloody. And an army of inheritors make their way behind Morlun. Morlun gets off Toby and says that he's on his turf and that he has all the power in the world here. They stand no chance for him. Toby stands up and he limps in Morlun's direction. Toby stands there. Toby says that he mustn't be so confident. Toby reveals he's holding one of the totems. He managed to grab one from Morlun during their battle. Morlun scoffs and says, "That's only one." Toby says, "It's not just one." He smashes it on the ground and a bright glow appears, and out comes Captain Universe. He takes a deep breath and snaps his fingers, and all of the totems rush from Morlun, and they hover above Captain Universe like lanterns in the sky. Captain Universe snaps his fingers again, and we get a beautiful shot of this orange-tinted glass shatter in the atmosphere. On the backdrop of a grey, washed-out landscape of Earth Zero, there is hope. The dust falls and settles, and someone lands. It's Spider Knight. He nods to Miles as he gets up, holding his side but with a smile on his face. All of the others get up slowly as well. Andrew, Mayday, 2099, Felicia, Tom, and they all look up as Spider-Men and women of the multiverse start raining from the sky. Spider-Ham arrives. Spider-Men from different universes, animated 90s Spider-Man, Unlimited Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Miles Morales, 616 Spider-Man, Superior Spider-Man, Petra Parker, Anya Spider-Woman, Spider-Gwen, MTV Spider-Man, and many more. They all lock on and gather with each other. Morlun growls as he screams that he will kill them all. Toby looks around him and smiles. He says, "Let's get this over with." All the Spider-Men and women and Pig charge at Morlun. Morlun and the Inheritors charge back, and a massive final battle ensues, Inheritors versus Spider-People. The battle goes on left, right, and center, Spider-Men and women jumping all over the place. The battle is long and hard and fights on. We lose some Spider-People. It wages on until there are little Inheritors left to fight. It's just Morlun on his own. Many Spiders are left, but most are injured, to the point where they can't even fight anymore. The fight slims and it's close to who will come out on top. It's Andrew, Toby, and Miles and Tom who are together fighting Morlun once again. Morlun is weaker this time. They manage to get him down. Morlun leeches with some strength, managing to push Tom away from them. Miles, Toby, and Andrew fight with their last strength to get Morlun down. And he's down. They start to exchange in dialogue. Morlun saying how he failed, and that they are the reason his family is going to die. Miles tells him that's not the way to deal with this. You shouldn't try to take anyone else's life. With great power comes great responsibility. This moment is showing what Miles has learned over the Spider-Verse, and how he's applied it. He's stepped up. He's become Spider-Man. He's not afraid anymore. And then out of nowhere, with his last bit of strength, Morlun gets up and aims a blade towards Miles, but then Toby jumps in the way of it. The blade goes straight through Toby's abdomen, just like how Harry saved him. He saved Miles. Miles screams, "No!" Andrew and Miles fight Morlun off Toby as he drops to the floor. Morlun has no strength left and goes down straight away. Andrew and Miles rush over to Toby. Then everyone else gathers around and crowds around him. Toby is bleeding heavily. Miles, with tears in his eyes, shouts that they can help him. Madam Web comes over and says that she can do nothing. Nature has taken its course. Miles says, "Stay with me." Toby says in his final words, "To remember what it means to be Spider-Man." Miles puts his head down as the others look down upon the situation. We fade to black. 1 month later, we cut to a funeral scene on Toby's Earth. Everyone is there. Aunt May, Felicia, and some of the Spider people are there as well. We get a scene with Felicia. The camera just stares at her. She got to say goodbye. But just like Mayday Parker, her baby will never know her father. Mayday looks on as we cut over to the three of them. Miles says that he was one of the best. Andrew agrees. Mayday says that he was a good guy. Andrew says that he taught us all something. They all nod their head. Mayday says that she better get going before she messes up the timeline again. She was lucky enough that Madam Web even let her come here. Miles and Mayday hug it out, and she leaves. Andrew and Miles stand with each other. Andrew says that you're a good kid, and a better Spider-Man. Miles says that you're not so bad yourself. Andrew jokingly comes back saying, "Don't be so cocky." He mentions that they wouldn't have gotten anywhere if it wasn't for Miles helping them with that plan. He tells Miles that he stepped up and proved himself. You don't have to worry about becoming Spider-Man when you already are him. Miles cracks a smile. Andrew says he better be off too. And Miles asks what he's got going on his Earth. Andrew says that he's getting married. And then he leaves. A happy ending for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Miles stands there and watches on. Madam Web approaches him. She says that he did good. And everyone did really well. It's just a shame we had to lose so many people in the process. Miles thanks her and says Then maybe again sometime. Webb says hopefully not, but you never know. Miles says that's enough multiverse for one day, and plus he's got a date with Anya to be on. Madam Web offers him a lift home, and Miles returns to the spectacular Spider-Man, Earth. The end.